For years, Todd Tucker and Kandi Burruss have been positioned as one of reality television's most stable power couples, two business-savvy individuals who manage to navigate fame, marriage, entrepreneurship, family, and branding while keeping their empire polished and profitable. Fans of Real Housewives of Atlanta watched them through restaurant launches, spin-offs, tours, Broadway endeavors, and family conflicts. And while the cameras often showed Kandi as the front-facing leader of the brand, Todd maintained the image of the supportive husband, present, patient, quietly strategic, and always managing something behind the scenes. But recently, that narrative has shifted dramatically. What began as whispers from insiders, former producers, and frustrated friends has now exploded into a conversation about production politics, branding optics, marriage dynamics, and the reality of being edited into a character for television. And the most shocking part? Many of these claims aren't coming from random gossip pages. They're allegedly coming from individuals who were actually there, in the studios, in the restaurants, in the production rooms, and even at the private dinners where no cameras were allowed. The first spark ignited when Todd posted and quickly deleted a message on social media that read, "Truth always finds a way out, even when you try to bury it for ratings." That short sentence was enough to send the internet into investigative mode. Within minutes, fans began resurfacing old clips, reunion moments, production interviews, and scenes that suddenly hit differently. Commentators flooded Twitter, Reddit, and Instagram with theories suggesting that Todd hadn't been portrayed as his full self on the show for years. People started asking questions that had never been asked publicly. Was Todd intentionally edited into passivity? Did Bravo shape him into the quiet husband archetype for brand optics? And did Kandi, knowingly or unknowingly, benefit from that portrayal as the polished, successful, and in-control face of their partnership? What made the situation escalate even faster was the response from individuals who allegedly worked behind the scenes. Anonymous associates, former crew members, and stylist insiders began dropping cryptic comments online, such as, "Y'all don't even know the half of it," which only fueled speculation that there was more to Todd's story than the glossy Bravo version viewers had been fed for a decade. According to leaked accounts shared through an anonymous Discord server of former Bravo staffers, tensions around Todd's portrayal had been building for well over a year, specifically around how his contributions, ideas, and business input were minimized or omitted. One producer claimed that production repeatedly framed Todd as a background accessory to Kandi's storyline, saying he was edited as supportive, present, but ultimately passive, despite allegedly being the strategic force behind multiple business moves. This claim was followed by an even bigger revelation. Todd had allegedly expressed frustration during a private off-camera dinner at a discreet Atlanta restaurant attended by close friends and a former publicist, where he reportedly said, "I'm tired of smiling while they tell my wife's version of our life. That's not the truth." If true, this wasn't frustration stemming from one isolated incident, it was fatigue from years of narrative control. Then came the moment fans now refer to as the Speak On It Vanishing episode. Speak On It, one of Kandi's successful YouTube series, briefly showed a scheduled video titled "Todd Shares His Unfiltered Truth for the First Time." It appeared publicly on the channel lineup, only to be pulled before airing. Although the footage never saw the light of day, the title alone sent fans spiraling, with hashtag #LetToddSpeak trending within 24 hours. Reddit threads compiled clips from past seasons showing Todd visibly dismissed during conversations about business ventures that he later played major roles in. Even a former hairstylist from RHOA added fuel to the fire by stating on Instagram Live, "Todd ain't no punk. Y'all think he quiet, but he got a voice. They just don't let him use it on camera." Fans began questioning whether Todd had been participating in the show on Bravo's terms rather than his own, and whether those terms quietly benefited everyone but him. Things escalated even faster when alleged DMs surfaced claiming Todd had pitched a solo docuseries titled Real Men, Real Life, centered around marriage, fatherhood, identity, and entrepreneurship. The premise reportedly aimed to spotlight the internal experiences of men behind successful public women, a compelling angle rarely explored in mainstream reality television. However, according to the alleged leak, a Bravo executive rejected the project with the explanation that Todd works better as Kandi's shadow. That's the brand viewers trust. This was the first major indicator, at least to fans, that Todd's limited visibility might not have been organic, it might have been strategic. Social media reacted swiftly and harshly, especially on TikTok, where creators began posting deep dives into Todd's role in the Burruss-Tucker business empire. One viral video highlighted how the old lady gang restaurants were nearly always framed as Kandi's brainchild, even though leaked messages suggested Todd had executed scouting, development, and expansion logistics long before the storyline made its way to television.
The story took another sharp turn when a former production crew member leaked details about a season 15 dinner scene that was fully filmed but ultimately cut from the show. The dinner, which included Kandi, Todd, Mama Joyce, and several friends, was intended to be lighthearted and family-focused. However, according to the leak, the scene derailed when Todd confronted Kandi on camera about feeling diminished by the brand narrative. The alleged breaking point came after Todd discovered a docuseries he had spent months developing about Black fatherhood had not only been blacked by producers, but that Kandi had quietly agreed with their decision due to concerns about diluting the franchise's brand alignment. The alleged quote that leaked from the confrontation shook viewers. "I stood behind you for every play, every album, every tour, every restaurant opening, and now when I try to build something I'm off-brand?" Mama Joyce allegedly responded with, "You should be grateful you even here. You wouldn't have a name if it wasn't for my daughter." Todd then reportedly walked off set, refusing to continue filming. Not only was the scene cut, it never resurfaced at a reunion, in confessionals, or even as bonus content. From there, the leaks snowballed. A hotel employee who recognized the Bravo team at a private taping location recorded audio from a hallway, allegedly capturing Todd saying, "I'm not a prop, Kandi," followed by Kandi reportedly responding, "I thought we were building together," and Todd firing back, "Not if I have to be silent to make it work." Whether the audio is authentic remains unverified, but its viral spread changed the tone of the entire discourse. This was no longer treated like petty reality TV drama. It became a conversation about emotional labor, identity, branding, gender dynamics, and the often invisible negotiation between public image and private marriage. However, for the longest time, Kandi and Todd were celebrated as one of reality television's most successful couples. Fans watched them meet, fall in love, blend families, build businesses, and juggle fame while managing to stay together through trials that would have broken many Hollywood marriages. Their relationship was not only a love story, but a storyline, one that became part of the Bravo universe, part of Atlanta culture, and part of the parasocial relationships viewers form with the personalities they watch each week. The couple showcased glamorous vacations, high-profile red carpets, restaurant openings, and family milestones that created the illusion of stability and partnership. They branded themselves as a power duo, one that could withstand anything. Beneath those images, however, insiders and those who had observed them firsthand suggest there were fractures in the foundation long before the public ever picked up on them. Over time, subtle signs began to surface. Scenes that once felt like playful banter took on a different tone as tension became more visible. Interviews revealed inconsistencies that fans quietly discussed on social media forums, and online communities began piecing together what they believed were clues buried in episodes and red carpet appearances. Even though reality television is an edited medium, viewers became experts at studying body language, pauses, distancing, and the small moments that reveal more than scripted dialogue ever could. According to those close to the couple, the real strain emerged when Kandi and Todd's personal and professional lives collided. running restaurants, producing shows, managing children, filming scenes, dealing with caste conflict, and building a public brand all demanded energy that seemed to leave little time for nurturing the marriage itself. Where most couples argue behind closed doors, their disagreements were sometimes filmed, teased in trailers, or discussed by castmates as part of a storyline. Another layer of pressure came from whispers and rumors that circulated for years about alleged affairs and infidelity. None of these rumors were publicly confirmed, yet their existence alone became a source of tension and emotional exhaustion. Sources claim Kandi confronted Todd multiple times about the allegations, seeking clarity and honesty, but the lack of resolution fueled frustration. These were not loud public explosions, but quieter moments of grief and confusion that play out in kitchens, cars, and dressing rooms away from the cameras, the kind of moments reality television often skips because they lack spectacle, even though they contain the real emotional weight. Friends close to Kandi reportedly noticed changes in her demeanor during this period. She became more private, more reflective, and at times more withdrawn. While she continued to show up professionally, filming, touring, producing, and managing businesses, people who knew her personally described a woman wrestling with disappointment, distrust, and the difficult task of separating what the public needed from what her heart needed. Social media only amplified the tension. Fan pages, bloggers, and online commentators began dissecting every clue they could find, from missing birthday posts to separate vacations to strained interactions in Instagram lives. In today's culture, fans do not just watch the story, they participate in it. They theorize, debate, and create meaning out of fragments. Each rumor, each photograph, each moment of distance became part of a growing narrative that perhaps this marriage was no longer as united as it appeared. Even though social media is often wrong, the conversations it sparks have real psychological impact, especially on public figures who are already navigating internal chaos.
Despite everything, those close to Kandi say she did not rush toward the exit. The decision to leave was slow, deliberate, and measured. Insiders claim she sought guidance from friends, family, and trusted advisors, weighing every option and considering the impact on her children, her brand, her businesses, and her legacy. Her role was not just that of a wife. She was a mother, a business owner, a public figure, and a multi-industry creative with a reputation for discipline and loyalty. Kandi reportedly confronted Todd on multiple occasions regarding the rumors of alleged infidelity, emotional distance, and communication breakdowns. The pattern persisted, though the public remained unaware of the depth of the conflict. According to one friend, Kandi reached a point where she realized she had been negotiating with her own boundaries in order to maintain the marriage, and that realization became the turning point. The tensions surrounding the alleged affairs became one of the most emotionally charged elements in the unraveling of their relationship. In celebrity marriages, rumors become currency. Whether true or false, they circulate quickly, gain momentum online, and infiltrate private spaces where insecurity and doubt take root. Kandi reportedly noticed shifts in Todd's behavior that raised questions: late-night outings, sudden changes in schedule, and interactions that fueled speculation. Friends claim she confronted him more than once, asking for clarity and transparency. Insiders describe the conversations as emotional, conflicted, and unresolved. The lack of closure deepened the emotional divide, and over time, mistrust became a repeating theme rather than an isolated moment. What made the situation even more complex was the overlap between marriage, business, and reality television production. Kandi and Todd were not simply spouses, they were business partners, co-parents, co-producers, and public figures whose relationship was part of a profitable entertainment ecosystem. When a couple's personal conflict becomes a storyline, it stops being private and becomes content. Insiders say that navigating that dual reality, trying to fix a marriage while also performing that marriage for television, added stress that would have challenged even the strongest relationships. Emotional distance allegedly grew, and the moments of connection that once defined their dynamic became harder to locate in their day-to-day lives. During this period, Kandi reportedly sought support from people she trusted deeply. For someone who has spent decades being strong for others, from family members to castmates to business partners, asking for support itself was an act of vulnerability. She reflected, she questioned, and she recalibrated. Those close to her say she reached a moment of clarity after what sources describe as a final, unresolved incident that pushed her to confront the reality of the marriage as it was, rather than as she had hoped it would be. It was at that point that she decided to stop preserving the image and start preserving herself. She chose peace over performance and boundaries over public perception. When Kandi finally declared, "I'm done," the impact resonated instantly throughout entertainment news outlets, fan communities, and social media platforms. Headlines emerged within hours, podcasts dedicated emergency episodes, commentators analyzed the timeline and speculated about the future. Fans expressed heartbreak, support, curiosity, and outrage. Some believed the split was inevitable, while others held on to hope that reconciliation might still be possible. Regardless of opinion, one thing was clear: this breakup had cultural weight because it represented the end of a televised love story that millions had invested in emotionally. Behind the noise of online discourse, however, the private aftermath was far more layered. Leaving a marriage that carried so much history and financial entanglement required logistical, emotional, and professional navigation. Kandi reportedly took steps to protect her children, maintain stability in her household, and safeguard her brand. Those close to her say she experienced waves of grief, relief, confusion, anger, and release, a cycle common among those who leave long-term relationships, especially ones that existed under constant scrutiny. Her friends describe her as someone who walked away not out of rage, but out of necessity, choosing dignity over drama and long-term well-being over short-term chaos. The decision also carried long-term implications for her career. Unlike many reality television figures, Kandi has built a multi-industry empire that includes music publishing, restaurants, production companies, television, Broadway ventures, and branding deals. Leaving a marriage in the public eye required strategic consideration. She did not want to implode her personal life in a way that would disrupt the infrastructure she spent decades building. Insiders suggest that every step she took, from the timing of the announcement to the language she chose, was intentional, measured, and rooted in self-respect. What makes this moment so powerful is not just the breakup itself, but the symbolism behind it. Kandi's declaration became a statement about agency, boundaries, and empowerment. In an industry that often romanticizes endurance over self-preservation, she chose to define her own ending rather than remain confined by public expectations of what a marriage should be. Her story resonates far beyond the world of reality housewives because it reflects the universal challenge of knowing when to hold on and when to let go. It challenges the assumption that longevity equals success and reframes success as the ability to choose oneself, even when the world is watching.
And yet, the story is not finished. Breakups, especially public ones, unfold in chapters. What comes next, the co-parenting, the business untangling, the media narratives, the interviews, the eventual reflections, will shape how this moment is remembered. Whether Todd will tell his side, whether alleged details will surface, whether reconciliation remains possible, or whether this becomes a clean break remains to be seen. What is certain is that Kandi Burruss, a woman who has reinvented herself time and time again, is entering a new chapter not defined by heartbreak, but by clarity. For now, the world watches, analyzes, and speculates. Fans mourn the end of a televised romance they once rooted for. Critics dissect the lessons embedded in the story. And Kandi continues forward, building, creating, producing, and evolving, as she has always done, but this time without carrying a relationship that no longer aligned with her peace or her boundaries. Her choice to say, "I'm done," was not just an end to a marriage, but a beginning of a new personal era, one defined by autonomy rather than obligation. Meanwhile, ex-producers and former Bravo interns began chiming in anonymously, stating that Todd had been profiled early on as a supportive husband archetype, and that the network allegedly protected that portrayal due to how well it tested with key audiences. One particularly explosive leak claimed that audience testing data showed viewers reacted negatively when Todd challenged Kandi on screen, as it disrupted the comfort zone Bravo built around her character. This escalated into broader cultural commentary about how Black men are framed in reality television, particularly in shows where Black women are positioned as the leads. Think pieces emerged on YouTube with titles like "Was Todd Tucker Too Real for Bravo?" and "The Weaponization of Editing in Black Reality Television." Through it all, Todd remained publicly silent until he wasn't. In the midst of leaks, voice memos, alleged Bravo cease and desist letters, and rumored marital confidentiality clauses, Todd released a teaser trailer for an unscripted project under a new studio brand called Tucker Vision. The teaser ended with the line, "Sometimes silence isn't maturity, it's survival," and a title card announcing Untucked, the unedited life of Todd Tucker, coming fall 2026. Industry insiders then claimed Todd had turned down a multi-million-dollar hush deal, refusing to let the story die quietly. That was the moment the internet collectively realized this wasn't about clout, chaos, or storyline relevance. This was about a man reclaiming the authorship of his own narrative after years of letting others frame it for him.